positive learning environment in which every member has the opportunity to develop communication and leadership skills, which in turn foster self-confidence and personal growth. I don't see any guests tonight, so now that brings up a point. How many of you talked about Toastmasters since our last meeting? A few, good, all right. We want guests. It's so good to give your speech in front of more people, and if we have guests, that will put more people in this room and give you that feeling of, yeah, someday I'm going to talk to 1,000 people. Now you know that I have always reserved time at the end of the meeting for the PPP. Dan, what's PPP stand for?
President's Pet Peeve.
All right, I'm going to take that time right now because I want you to think about this pet peeve, and maybe you'll implement what I'm suggesting in today's meeting. Nice meeting. So here's my pet peeve. When I give a speech and I get those wonderful evaluation forms back, only 1 or 2 of you sign your name at the bottom. And I would love to see everybody decide to sign your name. We're here to be supportive of each other's growth by giving honest, authentic feedback. And if I can't read your honest, authentic feedback, because I know we only give 2 minutes to write down all these things, I want to be able to come to you and say, Rick, I can't read this. What do you write here? But if your name isn't on it, I can't do that. So I encourage you to sign your name. Be proud of what you put down on the form as the evaluation for people. So that's my pet peeve for tonight. And yes, Art.
So unfortunately, we have a series of forms for evaluation that don't have a place for a signature on them. So what I do is, in the space at the top of the form where it has the name of the person who spoke, he usually knows his own name and I don't have to really write out very much. I put that and then I put my initials. I put that signature up there.
Great, great. And I just go down at the bottom of the form where it says suggestions, and the last thing is I just write my name. So anyway, think about it. If it works for you, do it. I think it has a way of adding value to our evaluations if someone wants to ask you more about what you wrote on the form. Maybe they need clarification, and it's, they can't have that dialogue, which is really important to our growth as speakers. They don't know who wrote that form. All right. Now it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's Toastmaster, Jyoti.
Fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home. I'm your Toastmaster tonight. My role is to keep meeting moving and to see the meeting is conducted and finished on time. Saying that, I will introduce tonight's quote. The theme of tonight is prerogative. How do you pronounce that?
Prerogative.
Prerogative. Okay. Prerogative. And the quote is, it's a fool's prerogative to utter truth that no one else will speak. Saying that, I would like to introduce the role players of the day. Today, our timer is Dan Craig. Dan, can you please stand up?
Tonight I'll be timing all of the talks that we hear. We start with table topics, which are 1 to 2 minute speeches. The green light is turned on at 1 minute. The yellow light is turned on at 1 minute 30 seconds. The red light is turned on at 2 minutes. It remains on until the end. I prepared speeches of varying lengths tonight. A typical speech is 5 to 7 minutes. In that case, the green would be on at 5, the yellow at 6, the red at 7. For speeches of different lengths, we adjust in that same pattern. The evaluations are 3 minutes. The green light is turned on at 2 minutes. The yellow light is turned on at 2 minutes 30 seconds. The red light is turned on at 3 minutes and remains on until the end of the speech. You have a 30-second grace period after the red light comes on. At that point, in theory, you may hear applause that will congratulate you on your excess. And I believe table topic speakers have to speak at least 1 minute to qualify. I'll give a report at the end of the meeting.
I'd like to introduce our grammarian of today, Mahdi Kandari. Can you please?
I'm a grammarian and I have two responsibilities. First is introducing new words. Remember, my word today is serendipity, means the occurrence and development of events by chance in a happy or beneficial way. The synonyms are happy and happy chance or happy accident. The second responsibility is to comment on the use of English during the course of the meeting. Thank you.
Our next role player is Jolene Gates. She will be our counter today. Jolene, can you tell what's your role?
The off-counter is to note words and sounds such as a crutch or used as a crutch or a pause filler by anyone who speaks during the meeting. Words may be inappropriate interjections such as and, well, but, so, you know. Sounds may be and repetition or false starts. And I'll give my report at the end of the evening.
Our general evaluator is Scott Terry. We'll hear from him later in the meeting. Our grader and joke master is Jeff Sibley. When there is joke. Our ballot and leader counter is Ria Sen. Saying that, I'll continue the meeting with our next first session of the meeting. That's a table topic. I'd like to welcome Stephanie Chamber, our table topic master.
Well, I was given the choice of choosing what I would like to do for table topics. The theme wasn't worked out early on. So I took my prerogative. And I've just finished writing a new mystery called Who Am I? Where I ask various famous people, got people to say lines from various famous people in answer to questions, so you get to work out who the famous people are. And also so you get to know the people you're at the party with. So there's some questions, and would someone like to volunteer to try one of these questions? Choose 1 to 4, or I could just read
4.
Okay. How did you stumble into your career or business? You tell us the story of how did you stumble into your career or business?
Okay, and what does this have to do with famous people?
Well, I'd asked various famous people the same question. And now
Oh, I got it. Okay. Good. Okay. Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and viewers at home. It's good to have a long introduction to table topics because it takes up most of the time. Long greeting. So it was very serendipitous how I stumbled onto my career. I was working for the TM organization as a teacher. I love being a teacher. I love teaching TM, and I was working at the national headquarters in beautiful Pacific Palisades, right on the Pacific Ocean. And there was an opening for someone to work in the data processing area, which was mostly very rudimentary things.
And I worked there for a little while and gained some experience in this field, some experience in computer programming. And then I moved back to Long Island and I had to get a real job. And so I don't want to say I faked a resume, but I wrote my experience in the best light. I was very confident that I would be able to handle the job. At that time it was an entry level. And so it was a matter of the serendipity of working with computers in an educational organization, and then my New York chutzpah in presenting my accomplishments in the proper light. Thank you.
Another volunteer? About yourself in some way? I see any questions. Good.
Three.
What is something you have done that you are proud of? What is something you have done that you are proud of?
Madam Table Topics Master, club members, viewers at home. In my 60 years on this planet, one of the things that I'm proud of is going to law school and becoming a lawyer. I'm not a very fast reader, and law school involves tons and tons of reading. And I would literally every other night stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning reading, and I'd fall asleep drooling in my textbook. The next morning I'd get up, go to school, class, and I'd go to bed early. And then every other day I would stay up until I fell asleep in my textbook. I graduated high up in my class and got a job with a major Washington, D.C. law firm. And one of the things that I really liked doing was working for nonprofit clients, helping them stay within the parameters of the Internal Revenue Code as a nonprofit organization. One day, the head of the firm puts out a memo that there is a particular client that is a pro bono client, meaning we're doing the work for free. It's a nonprofit. And the organization was the Maryland Right to Life. And they represent a view that is different from mine. And I thought about it. I think, well, should I take this client on? Nobody in the firm was volunteering to take this client on. And I said, every client is entitled to a fair representation. Even if it's not a trial, it's a trial in essence before the IRS. And so I took it on, I won the case, and I was happy that I did my duty as a lawyer. Madam Table Topics.
Do I have another volunteer? One or two?
Two.
What cracks you up? What makes you laugh?
Fellow Toastmasters, guests and viewers at home. What cracks me up or what makes me laugh? This cracks me up because I don't know really what cracks me up. It's very hard to find what is funny. It's for everybody, I guess. So if you think that's gonna be funny, then that will not be funny because you already have that that feelings, I mean, I don't know how to say, but when you think something gonna be funny, that generally turns out not to be funny. And when you think it won't be funny, that will make fun out of you. So life is like that. So what I find funny is the things which happens to anybody, me or anybody of us, which doesn't hurt you or me, but that gives us feelings of some happiness, and the negative, I mean, that negative things happen that which doesn't hurt you, neither me nor you, but that gives a feeling of, I mean, I don't know, I'm not able to put it in English, but it's like the events which looks like negative, but doesn't have a negative effect. I mean, that's really a funny thing. That is funny for me. It's not like if somebody hurts, that can never be funny, or neither for him or for me. But when it happens and it doesn't hurt, doesn't make any negative effect or impact, but it seems really funny, that is funny. Thank you.
Volunteer for the first question. Yeah. That's the first question out every time, and no one wanted it. Okay. What is one interesting fact that none of us probably know about you? It's one interesting fact that none of us probably know about you.
Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home. I think probably none of you know that I'm a drummer. Does anybody know? It's an interesting fact. Okay, let's try a different interesting fact. Probably none of you know that I grew up in the Texas Panhandle. You know, Texas is this huge state. It's got a little square thing on the top, like you could pick it up. Well, there's a big town called Amarillo. If you go 60 miles northeast from Amarillo, you hit Pampa, Texas, P-A-M-P-A, which is where I grew up. Pampa is a type of grass that you've heard of, grows in the plains of Argentina. It was an interesting little town, and I've been thinking about it a bit more lately because I've been seeing emails about reunions, high school reunions. Today I got a post on Facebook which was the 1968 Junior Class National Honor Society. And it said, well, all of these people would have been in our class as seniors, so does anybody know these people's names? So it was really kind of funny to look at a picture from 1968 and realize that you only knew about maybe 60%. Some of the people I didn't recognize. That was kind of interesting. That's an interesting fact about me, that I grew up in the Texas Panhandle. And if that doesn't work for you, I'm also a drummer.
Do we have more time, or is that enough?
We have time for one more.
Okay, this will be winging it a little bit. Does anyone want to take a chance? We'll talk about, I'll mention a point from a famous person, and if you like, you can talk about the famous person. You can work out who they are, or you can just make up. Some of these I think you may know because you know something about this kid.
Make some up.
All right. Even though I made a few mistakes along the way, overall I am pleased that I helped build my country into a world power, and that I helped improve the status of women in the education, healthcare, and life expectancy of millions of people.
Let's talk about the person
That was,
or anything.
it's up to you.
Okay.
Secret.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, viewers at home, and everyone here. Eleanor Roosevelt. No? All right.
Doesn't matter.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, that we should conquer our fears. The serendipity of life really takes us in. And if you think about the moment when she was creating a universe at that time, it wasn't just the UN. It wasn't just dealing with Franklin. It wasn't just the war. It's the integrity of who she was, regardless of anything else that happened. And I keep thinking to myself, how do we maintain that? How would you maintain that in the midst of a war? A war that still feels present in so many ways. The reverberations, like an echo, stone being dropped in. And the ripples still flow. To all of us. Where are we today? I think for myself that I felt like I'm at war. I was telling Lewis a moment ago about the struggle I've had with learning disabilities all my life. And so I would say me and Stephanie as opposed to Stephanie and I. Thank you, Lewis, for pointing that out. Because I don't get this. My brain doesn't seem to calculate. The war isn't out there. The war for her wasn't out there. The war for all of us is inside. And how do we let go of the fight to be who we are? To have integrity every day. Power.
Just so everyone's curiosity, it was actually Chairman Mallon I was talking about.
Yeah, close enough. Same person. It was
No, Roosevelt is close enough. So, did everyone qualify?
Yes, everyone qualified.
Did you read the names of the people who qualified?
You have the times too.
No, just the names.
Rick, Lewis, Jody, Dan, and Scott qualified. Yay.
So everybody qualified.
Yes.
So if everyone could write down, tear out their own piece of paper who they think was the most table topics. And now I'll call up John Miller to evaluate the table topics.
Fellow Toastmasters and viewers at home, we had an interesting series of talks. Let me give some feedback to Rick, first of all. I thought it was an excellent use of a couple of terms. Number one, serendipity, and number two, chutzpah. And stumbling into the career, you gave us a little glimpse of what TM did for you and how it helped move you into this East Coast position. Good eye contact, I thought, and you moved right away out here to kind of connect with the audience. What would I recommend? A little bit difficult to recommend improvement. Perhaps something about how it led to what you're doing today, but that's a relatively minor issue. Perhaps this I would apply to everybody except Scott today in the table topics, to, besides getting out here, to engage a little bit with each side of the audience, okay? You and Louis and Jyoti and Dan tended to find the place and stay there quite a bit. Scott really kind of mastered that moving around that I like to see. I think it's more helpful to engage everybody. Louis illustrated well the slate issue, the nonprofit example, a very heartfelt example, I thought. Engaged the audience throughout your whole talk very well with a lot of dynamic, powerful eye contact and inflection. And as again, the side movement would be helpful. Jyoti, what cracks you up? It cracked me up to hear you talk about being cracked up. I thought it was really beautiful that you said something that doesn't hurt other people. So often, humor is something that has a barb in it for someone and kind of at their expense it may be funny, but you really brought out it doesn't need to be. That was well done. Dan, fact about you others didn't know, drummer. I would not have thought that, that's cool. Nor would I have thought the Texas Panhandle. You don't have a trace of accent anymore. And if you don't like that, then you're a drummer. That was kind of a nice conclusion, bringing it back to home. Scott, who said that? You missed Stephanie's identification of who said that, but you didn't miss a step. You just kept on going with Eleanor Roosevelt and didn't trouble you a bit. Beautifully done. The gesture of rippling, beautiful integrity is war inside, it's not outside. Very well done. I really don't have critical feedback for you. Well done.
Now we are in the main course of the meeting, that is prepared speeches. So first of all, I would like to welcome Rick Stark to introduce our speaker today,
Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home. Pleasure for me to introduce Gene Symington Craig, who is giving a speech from the Advanced Communications Storytelling Manual. And Gene is working on a project for the touching story. The objectives of this project are to understand the techniques available to arouse emotion and to become skilled in arousing emotions when telling a story. And I'd like to remind all of us to include evaluations of these objectives when you fill out Gene's evaluation card. Gene's been a Toastmaster since 2006 and is an Advanced Communicator Bronze and Advanced Leader Silver. She's held office at the club and area levels and been a mentor and coach to other clubs. Aside from being a member of this club, Gene is a member of Toastmasters Club 9513, the Conscious Communicators, spelled C-O-N, to reflect the criminal element. This club is an inmate club at the Iowa State Penitentiary Maximum Security Prison for Men in Fort Madison. This club has achieved President's Distinguished status for the last 2 years, and Gene has been a member since 2012. Tonight, Jean will be telling a story about an event that happened at Conscious Communicators early on in her experience with the club. She will be telling her story in the present tense in order to give the audience a "you are there" experience. The title of Jean's speech is The Great Debate. It's 6 to 8 minutes long. Help me welcome Jean Symington-Craig. I apologize. The club has outside volunteers required by the administration in order for the club to meet and attend the twice-a-month meetings.
Thank you so much. Can everyone see and pull in, and some empty seats here, and kind of, come on. Okay. Thank you.
Storm time.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. It is Saturday, March 17th, 2012. We are at the Iowa State Penitentiary Maximum Security Prison for Men in Fort Madison. We place our belongings in a metal locker, taking only a pen and our driver's license for IDs. We slip off our shoes and walk through the metal detector to make sure we're not bringing in any metal that could be used as a weapon if it obtained by an inmate. We're patted down, and our hands are stamped with a special glow ink, so in case there's a riot, we won't get mistaken as inmates in the melee. I know it seems a little silly, but that's the rules. After we get our volunteer badges, our guard escort walks us through dank corridors across a courtyard filled with flowers that have been planted by inmates heading towards the chapel. We are going to participate in the Great Debate, sponsored by Conscious Communicators, Toastmasters Club 9513. Walking towards us, there are volunteers from another group who ask with a smile, "Can we come to the Great Debate?" The president of Conscious Communicators greets us and leans in. The institution is talking about nothing else. He says, "I have been swamped with inmate requests to come to the Great Debate." We notice all the large numbers of inmates that are walking towards the chapel. We are part of a real happening. I am getting excited. Let me introduce you to the key players. Jennifer Newman is a professor of communications at the Southeast Iowa Community College and is an outside member, club member. She's very experienced in debate, and she's going to be the debate moderator. Fred Kruger and I, also outside club members, are going to be debate judges. The team arguing the affirmative position is going to be Conscious Communicators, and the team arguing the negative position has been filled with inmates from the general population. Fred and I, even though we're club members, we're considered to be in the best position to be impartial about judging because we're outside members. This is going to be a very competitive event. The proposition is capital punishment is an acceptable form of punishment. Now, at a maximum security prison where most of the inmates have life sentences and may have narrowly avoided having a death sentence, you can imagine the passion that's involved with this. Conscious Communicators has decided, because they're hosting the event and also because they consider themselves the more experienced speakers, to take the harder affirmative position, arguing for the legitimacy of the death penalty. This debate is going to be following precise debate protocols with both teams adhering to the format. Each team alternates with giving two constructive speeches. These are speeches that present their argument, where they argue for their position, either affirmative or negative, to the group. This is followed by each team alternating giving two rebuttal speeches, which address and try to counter the arguments presented by the opposite side. Toastmaster muscles that are being used here: prepared speech muscles for the constructive speeches where you have time to prepare those, and then impromptu table topics muscles for the rebuttal speeches, because you have to prepare those on the fly. There's going to be a lot of exercise with this. As a judge, it's my job to allocate up to 100 points to each team to determine a winner. In addition to watching that format that I've described, I'm going to be judging content, organization, supporting material, including research and expertise, expert opinions, persuasive appeals, delivery, and language. And each of those categories have numerous subcomponents to further guide my scoring. I am really impressed with the level of professionalism and focus that's gone into this debate. And I'm realizing that I really am going to have to step up my game to do my job well. The room settles down, seatbelts are buckled, and the debate begins. The members of the negative team argue that the proposition does not allow for rehabilitation or redemption based on broader comprehension of the effects of harmful actions. They also point out and document with cases the very strong possibility of getting it wrong, of actually executing an innocent person. The members of the affirmative team choose to narrow the scope of the proposition to really focus only on the most egregious crimes that just by their nature deserve death. They support victims' rights, and they also give evidence that supports the death penalty as a deterrent for future crime. There is a particularly persuasive dramatic enactment by one of the members acting as a voice from the grave, demanding justice and bemoaning the intense suffering of those left behind. How to judge a performance like this? Fred and I retired to the judging room. We decide that we are going to work independently through all these variables and then combine our results to determine a winner. After we do our scoring and our calculations, we have an astonishing result. Fred, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Yep. Both teams have exactly 165 points. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a tie. As we step back into the crowded room to deliver the verdict, the silence and the anticipation is palpable. When we deliver the news of the tie, the room erupts in excitement. It has been a mind-boggling afternoon. I am blown away with the level of debate expertise, the reasoned, logical progression of each team's constructive and rebuttal speeches, and the passionate, persuasive eloquence that members and speakers have brought to their tasks. Furthermore, I am challenged to revisit opinions and assumptions I have had in the past in my own mind about the capabilities of incarcerated individuals. And finally, most importantly, I have witnessed the power of the human spirit to rise above repressive, punitive, confinement conditions to create a captivating and breathtaking communication masterpiece that still sends chills up my spine.
Now we'll take 2 minutes to evaluate the speaker. Welcome back. Now I'd like to call upon the stage Will Barnes, who is going to read objective for Art Hutchinson, who is doing interviewing James Sefley.
Aoki. Tonight, Art Atkinson is presenting Project 3 from the Advanced Manual, Communicating on Video. In this project, entitled When You Are the Host, Art will take the part of a talk show host interviewing a guest on his program. Jeff Shipley will be his guest, and the rest of us are to take part in this as the offstage audience. Art's objective is to conduct a successful interview, one that puts the guest, Jeff, at ease and allows for a natural flow of conversation that allows the guest, Jeff, to shine. Art should demonstrate understanding of how to speak for a video camera or for television, which can be quite different from speaking to a live audience. One note for the timer. This speech, the time for this interview is 10 minutes, plus or minus 30 seconds. So the times are 9:30, 10, and 10:30.
Thank you.
Art Atkinson joined Golden Speakers in 2005 to strengthen his public speaking skills. During the day, he works as a health and wellness coach at Fairfield Nutrition. In this capacity, speaking to individuals and groups is vital. Last week, he gave a 1-minute talk to an audience of 12,000 in Chicago. He and his wife Sue enjoyed traveling, gardening, sailing, ballroom, swing and folk dancing, and cycling. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Golden Speakers Toastmasters Television. My name is Art Atkinson. My guest tonight is Mr. Jeff Shipley. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Art. Pleasure to be here.
Jeff Shipley is running for the Iowa House of Representatives District 82 seat that is currently occupied by Kurt Hansen. Jeff is a resident of Fairfield. He's 25 years old. He grew up in Naperville, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. He attended the University of Iowa and graduated with a bachelor's in political science in 2010. Jeff founded 2 student clubs while he was at U of I, including the Young Americans for Liberty, which is still going strong 4 years later. Presently works as a bankruptcy paralegal for the Fairfield law offices of attorney Ed Noyes. He's a Republican activist and delegate since the year 2008, and he served on the Iowa Republican State Central Committee from 2012 to 2014. Jeff, you've been involved in politics now since your early years at the University of Iowa. What got you started in politics in the first place?
Well, I was always very politically inclined, interested in what was going on. I was always very fond of history, very fond of geography. I guess the simplest answer is there was a moment in 2006 where I was kind of faced with some tough questions. The Iraq War was going on, and obviously the global war on terrorism, and there were some fundamental questions that our American society was answering. And I don't think there was really a wide spectrum of debate. I think there was a lot of issues that were not even being brought up. And so I began asking myself, well, how can I get my voice heard to raise the debate and ask some of these, what I consider very tough, sometimes unpleasant, uncomfortable questions.
Have you ever run for political office before?
There was an experience in 2009 in Iowa City, where as a student representative to the city council, I got on the ballot and ran somewhat of a student campaign. It was very much, it was a serious campaign, but it was a very early entry into politics, and it was very much a learning experience more than an attempt to actually win the office. But again, we influenced the public debate, which was the prime objective of the candidacy.
Is your relative youth, your young age, a factor in this current election?
Absolutely. That's one of the main reasons I'm running, is I feel that young people people my age aren't really given a fair shake, are very underrepresented in our political system, and I hope to give them a louder voice for issues that young people do care about, or I think should be caring or paying a little bit more attention to.
Why run for this particular election for the Iowa House of Representatives?
Well, as you mentioned, I was very active in the Republican Party of Iowa. The district here is a swing district, which means there's kind of an equal amount of Republicans and Democrats. Yet it's a tough situation because there's been an incumbent involved for many years, and there was had a hard time recruiting a candidate. There wasn't necessarily any other Republicans who were going to run. There was another gentleman who was interested in moving into the district and running, and that idea wasn't met with much enthusiasm with me and my peers, so we decided to field our own candidate, and I kind of drew the short straw on that one.
Well, what are the differences between your positions and those of the incumbent Kurt Hansen?
Positions being political positions, policy positions.
Correct.
Well, there are a lot of distinctions between myself and my opponent. I'm running for office to bring a youthful, fresh perspective to shake things up. One of my big taglines is to create a sustainable future for Iowans. There's a lot of stress in the political system, stress in the financial system, stress in the food system, and in order to meet the challenges ahead, I think we need to focus and create a degree of flexibility. Also, professionally, I work as bankruptcy, so I see people who are suffering really the nitty-gritty details, people who are falling on tough times and need assistance. So the main policy differences between my opponent's record and what I intend to do is I intend to make life more affordable. I think we need to ease up and make things more affordable, make life more pleasant than Iowans. Unfortunately, my opponent, despite his previous pledges to not raise taxes on middle-class Iowans, I feel he's failed in several respects in that regard. He is on a proposal to add a $25 surcharge for tires. So anyone who wanted to get a new set of tires for their vehicle, it would be $100 more. There's a special interest proposal that's been in the Iowa legislature to increase the gasoline tax. Some politicians think Iowans aren't paying enough for gasoline, so they want to make gasoline 10 cents more expensive per gallon. I think that would be a tax on middle-class Iowans. I think that would be terrible policy. I think it would, again, cause extra stress on hardworking Iowa families and individuals, myself included. So I think those are pretty bad public policy ideas, and I wish to first not raise taxes, eliminate taxes, because overall I think we should be making life more affordable, making life more pleasant for everyday Iowans.
Do you have other things that you would like to accomplish if you're elected in this election?
Well, again, the point of running is to really raise the debate, is that there's a lot of things that aren't even being talked about, a lot of bills that aren't being introduced, a lot of bills that are being killed in committee without a hearing. So the overall goal is to raise the discussion, especially a community unique with Fairfield that has a lot of unique concepts and ideals here. I think Fairfield really deserves an outspoken advocate, someone who's really going to go the extra mile to win over hearts and minds of people on important ideas and important concepts. So yeah, there's a whole host of issues that I feel aren't getting enough attention. Energy policy in particular would be a good one.
How would you raise the public level of discussion of those issues?
Well, the way I see it now in Iowa and the state level, there's a certain group of special interests that wield disproportionate power. And they tend to be agricultural interests, whether it's the Farm Bureau, corn growers, pork producers, soy association, and those are the same folks who want to raise the gasoline tax. Those are also the same folks that want to, say, mandate the use of ethanol as renewable energy. One of the big problems with ethanol as a renewable fuel is it's dependent on fossil fuels through and through every phase of the production. So how can you create renewable energy when it's dependent on fossil fuels? And then the results haven't been there. There was a lot of kind of grand public policy promises made, a decade or so ago about how ethanol is going to cut our dependence on oil and cut down or get improved miles per gallon, that type of thing. And the results haven't been there at all. Now, again, it's great for the price of corn, which some farmers appreciate. Although a lot of the ethanol manufacturing facilities are owned by foreign or out-of-state corporations, so the value leaves Iowa, but it still is great for the price of corn. So it's kind of tough to, when a certain group or groups have been accustomed or acclimated to a certain policy which benefits them, even though it's ineffective, it's kind of tough, and it takes a certain finesse or tact to kind of bluntly say, hey, this isn't working out. It's bad policy. It might be great for you, but you're kind of screwing over everybody else, including raising food prices, with the way it just overall distorts the economy. And that's another thing that my opponent has done. My opponent has doubled down on the failed policies of corn ethanol, whereas I think Iowans deserve a much more vibrant, robust discussion on how to meet energy needs in the 21st century.
Okay. Are there other propositions that you would bring forward that you think might benefit the voters in this district?
Yes. For instance, I gave a speech last week about a gentleman by the name of Benton McKenzie, who's facing jail time for the crime of growing his own medicine. Overall, I think there's a need for criminal justice reform. There is a story in the Des Moines Register today about a man who was tased 15 times by the police and then died. Again, I'm not in law enforcement. I don't know the situation, but I think maybe tasing him once or twice would have been enough. I don't think we needed to tase him 15 times and kill the man. Again, there's a lot of sentencing. For instance, the ACLU released a study last year that said if you're an African American, Black, or Hispanic person living in Iowa, you're 8 times more likely to be arrested for drug-related offenses than their white counterparts. The national average is 4-to-1 racial disparity. Iowa's twice that at 8-to-1, even though statistically both race groups abuse substances at the same rate. So to me, that indicates institutionalized racism in the criminal justice system.
Great.
Excuse me.
So how could voters who are interested in learning more find your campaign headquarters or learn more about your positions?
Yes, well, Facebook's a great way to communicate through people. We have a website, but it's probably wasn't worth the $90 we spent on it. So we've been doing a lot through Facebook. I'm very accessible through email. My email address is jeff@shootingforiowa.com. I try and respond to all emails within a timely fashion. And then again, you can always reach me on my cell phone at area code 319-432-3108. And I'm happy to take your call at any time of day.
So one more tidbit is that you are apparently training an elderly dachshund that you own to race in the Winter Dog race in Oktoberfest.
That's correct.
What are your chances in that?
I think it's 100%. She's working hard, she's training, she knows she's in Fairfield to win. There's going to be more on that. She's actually featured as the joke tonight. I'm trying to redeem myself from an absence of Joke Master.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Let's take 2 minutes to evaluate the speaker.
Correct.
Welcome back. Let me welcome Dan Denver for the Toast to Deficitly.
My name is Monty Condon, and I'm the evaluator tonight for Diane Denbaum. Diane Denbaum is giving a special speech from the Special Occasions Manual, the very first one, project number 1. And I think it's actually very relevant to this club. Project 1 is called Mastering the Toast. Are we not all Toastmasters? Yeah. We need more toasting in this club. That's true. The executive summary for this project is weddings, anniversaries, and other celebrations often call for a toast. A toast bestows best wishes, as well as hopes for good health, happiness, good fortune, and other positive thoughts. A good toast has an opening, a body, and a conclusion, and fits the occasion in both mood and in language. When giving a toast, take care not to embarrass anyone and be sensitive to your audience and to the occasion. The objectives are, for this project, recognize the characteristics of a toast, present a toast honoring an occasion or person. Diane Denbaum is a life coach, a relationship success coach, the physical education teacher at Maharshi Elementary School, loving wife and co-author with her husband, Louis, and also our First Lady. of this club. She is a devoted daughter, a proud mother of 3 children and 2 stepchildren. In Toastmasters, she has achieved the Advanced Sober Communication and the Advanced Leadership Bronze. She has been VP of Education and substituted as VP of Membership for 3 months and is currently the VP of Public Relations. Diane Dibbon.
Thank you. I'd like to toast Jeff Shipley, candidate for the Iowa House District 82. A stand for freedom, prosperity, and peace. May you achieve the goal that you have to bring fresh energy to what Jeff calls the stale, politics as usual attitude in Des Moines. Yes, Jeff, please be an advocate for those wholesome and honest values that the people of this district honor. A few weeks ago, I was walking in town with 2 friends. Jeff serendipitously drove by. He yelled out, "Hey Diane, I'm going to answer that email tonight." I said, "Okay, Jeff." "Who's that?" my friends asked. I said, "Oh, that's Jeff Shipley. I know him from Toastmasters. He's into politics, really passionate about that." "Oh, wow, he looks really bright and enthusiastic and handsome. He should be good at politics." I have to say, I have thoroughly enjoyed his youthful, fresh energy at Toastmasters. He joined when it used to be over at the church, and I was so impressed. Number one, he took on an office position right away. But what impressed me more was how he would look around to see, what can I do to help? How can I be part of this team? And he'd stay after, and I'm not just telling you something I saw, I experienced it. "Diane, tell me about your life, your business, your relationship." And he would talk, and I said, "God, he really cares." I was very impressed. So I'd like you to raise your glass with me and stand to Jeff Shipley. May happiness and success be with you as you move through this huge and generous endeavor to make things right for the people of District 82. To Jeff.
Hear, hear.
Hear, hear. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters.
Now take 2 minutes to evaluate the speaker. Now we'll vote for the best speaker. Welcome back. We'll move to our next section of the meeting, that is evaluation section. Let me welcome our general evaluator, Scott Cherry. Take over.
We are now getting to evaluations. We're running a little behind time, so we're going to speed on up. So let's bring up the first evaluator, Rick Starr. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Gene. Before I get into the evaluation, Gene, I just want to express my appreciation for your compassion and commitment in being part of this prison Toastmasters Club. We all make mistakes in life, and sometimes when our mistakes are serious, we're treated as less than human beings. I just want to appreciate your compassion in being a part of this club. I think it's a very good thing for the people involved. I'll go through the
evaluation form for this speech. What emotions did you experience as the speaker told the story? How did the speaker use descriptive words and phrases to evoke emotions? I experienced the whole range of emotions as Jean intended. When the speech started, I experienced a sense of trepidation going into the prison and walking down the dank hallway. I could see the water dripping off the walls. And the excitement, the whole prison is talking about this debate. Suspense. How can inmates possibly defend the death penalty when they are in that situation? And at the end, I don't know what the emotion was, elation and surprise, that was a tie. So very, very emotional speech, and I experienced all of them. How did the speaker use dialogue to evoke emotion? Not too much dialogue. There was some dialogue in the beginning between the judges, but mostly Jean used description of emotions, description of action to evoke emotions. Did the story contain the basic elements of setting, characters, plot, conflict, and action? All of those, and in a very elegant way. Jean, a very, very good use of words and imagery to describe the emotions and to describe the story. Were the characters well developed? How did the speaker use description and dialogue to give them life? It was very interesting that there was dialogue between the judges, but the inmates as individuals' characters weren't developed, but Jean gave a sense of the inmates as a group rather than as individuals. And I thought this was very, very good. It gave kind of the sense of the anonymity and loss of identity in a prison. I thought that was very interesting. How was the story developed? Was the point of the story clear? Clear from the title, clear from the get-go. The story moved right along and very easy to follow. And how did the speaker build to a powerful climax? Not only in the use of description of the contest and the emotions during the contest, but Jean did a very good job of using vocal variety, very good job of varying the pitch and pacing of her talk to convey emotions, and also very good use of gestures. A couple of times Jean said, to just demonstrate the kind of tension there and a release from tension. And Jean buckled her seatbelt when the action was about to start. And then when Jean was explaining the climax, she leaned forward in her chair. It's a very, very good use of body language. And the only suggestion I would make would be to, and this wouldn't necessarily make it better, but it would just make it different, maybe just get into a description of the inmates as individuals. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I'm going to stay right here for the benefit of the camera. This was a challenging speech, both for Art to kind of go outside his comfort zone and advanced manual, and for me as an evaluator, this is my first time doing this type of speech. I've seen them done before, but it's a different kind of speech. I'll just reiterate that it's different, as Art well knows, because you're focusing on the camera and kind of this area right here instead of the entire stage. So obviously a suggestion like use more of the stage would be ridiculous if you affiliate this thing. Moving on, for your benefit, to Art. First off, thank you for taking the plunge here. I love the speech there and the panel, or the interview process. It's really nice. How well prepared were you? You seem quite well prepared. You had documentation here for me to read. I like that. And how effectively did you lead the interview? This is kind of a key question I felt, because as the interviewer, this is kind of the meat and potatoes right here, is how well you direct the discussion. I feel like that it was very well led. You asked for background from him, kind of easy kind of question, get him warmed up, and then you go down to his history. You addressed his inexperience, and then answered the question of why he's running right now. One thing I need to note, you did ask for clarification at one point, but I think that was very naturally handled. You were very easily able to bring him back on topic and clarify his question about what positions meant, as whether it was a contrast or some, basically between his own stance and that of Craig Hansen's. He made very clear what Jeff's skill set was in politics. He's a new kind of maverick. He's got a lot of extensive experience, but he has a lot of passion and a lot of knowledge. I feel like you appeared confident, relaxed, and that your dress was, you were dressed professionally for it, but you didn't outshine the speaker, which I thought was a big thing. I made all those to the group. Personally, I would think if I'm interviewing, I want to be respectful, I want to be well dressed, but not so much so that I outshine the guest. What do y'all think? Do you get think I'm on that or no? Good. Moving on.
I agree.
Okay. Finally, I will make one suggestion. Art, and what was a great speech, was the eye contact, which is a big thing. I feel like you looked at the camera at just a little bit early, just before Jeff had kind of made his points, or he was still making some points. You kind of looked at the camera a little bit, and maybe that's correct, but my feeling, and I'm almost out of depth here, was that you want to almost use that look at the camera as a pause for your speaker, for your interviewee, to kind of create a little bit more, give that time for thought. Otherwise, great speech, Art. Looking forward to more coffee at Dan's side. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Will. Monty, come on out.
Diane, that toast was short and sweet. So I'll be sure to make this evaluation as well. How did you feel about that toast as a whole, Toastmasters? Well delivered?
Really good.
Did it feel personal? I felt that. I felt it was heartfelt. It was personalized. That was one of the objectives for the toast. You wanted to make it a personalized toast. He brought out stories about Jeff, the good-looking guy that drove by yelling out the window. You brought up when you first met Jeff through Toastmasters. That was a very good anecdote about how he's caring and he's kind. He genuinely cares. And she shared an anecdote about that with her experience with him in Toastmasters. That was another of the objectives. Also well done. You very effectively used the intro, body, and conclusion. Those were really well defined, I felt, in your toast. And you could tell there were sections to it, at least I picked up on that, but it flowed very, very easily. You had the intro where you mentioned Jeff getting involved in politics. You identified him as the candidate for district, was it 18? 82. District 82 here in Jefferson County. And very timely. That was another of the questions for the evaluation guide was the occasion appropriate to honor this person? We had just had an interview with Jeff previously. So Jeff was very fresh in our mind. So the flow right into the toast, that was very natural. Let's see here. How would I have improved this or done something differently with this toast? Or this presentation? I would have to say, on a technical level, I couldn't find anything. I really felt you hit it out of the park. It was well delivered, heartfelt, personal. The only little thing that I would improve is if you do this again next time, or anyone else who does a toast, we need some bubbly in that glass. Anyone got over here? Thank you.
Thank you. Got it. Nancy. We are now going to go through our role players really quick. What? Oh, vote. Yes, I'm sorry. Vote for Best Evaluator. Did all the evaluators make it? Which would be John, Rick, Will, and Monty. This timer. Did they all make it?
John, Will, and Monty made it.
I see.
6 seconds.
John, Rick, and Monty.
And we're back. Now it's time for our role players tonight. Our timer Annette Estes. Annette.
Table topics, what are we reporting on here?
Science.
Of everything?
Yep. Yep.
I already told you once, all right, I'll take it.
Yeah, you didn't
Table
know that.
topics, we have 5 speakers. Rick, minute 59. Lewis, 2:15. Jody. Do you want to call Jody or Jody Raj? Jody Raj? Jody Raj. I heard your voice, I want to make sure. 152, Dan 153, Scott 217. Here you go. Jean, 8 minutes and 1 second. Art, 11 minutes and 2 seconds. Diane, 3 minutes. On the nose. John, table topics evaluator, 3 minutes and 16 seconds. Rick, the evaluator's Rick, 3:36. Will, 3:15. Monty, 2:07.
Great.
And I took way too long. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tonight, all the speakers and evaluators were perfect, and I enjoyed it. Rick used 2 times serendipity, Scott 1 time, and Dan 1 time used the is word. And also, I want to mention some sentences. Scott said, "Put stone to the water," and effect of it expanded, and I enjoyed it. And also, Monty used the applied sentences and said, "Master's toast" instead of Toastmaster. I enjoyed it, and I think the Toastmaster is a good place for warm up and ready for the leaders in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Hannah and Charlotte.
Thank you. As a first-time counter, I didn't count everyone who spoke tonight. It started to feel a little overwhelming, so I only counted the table speakers and the featured speakers. Rick had 1 2 so's, 5 ands, and 2 repeats. Lewis had 6 ands. Jody Raj had 2 so's, 2 repeats, and a couple of times you said "I mean," that it sounded like filler words. So I counted those as well. Dan had 2 ands and 1 repeat. Scott, 3 ands. Jean had 4 ands, 2 repeats, and 4 false starts. Art, you had 1 false start, you fumbled on 1 more word, otherwise you were clear. I also counted Jeff, since he actually spoke more than Art did. 5 uhs, 15 ums, 2 you-knows, 2 ands, and 4 wells. And Diane had 1 so, 1 and. That's it.
And yeah, ever-present Jeff tonight.
Jeff Shipley Show.
The Jeff Shipley Show.
All right, so I failed to tell a joke last week, and I felt really bad about it, so I thought I'd share a personal story.
Turn it down now.
Try it long. Just mash the button at this point. Okay, so this is my dog Waffles that Art alluded to. She's been living in Fairfield for 16 days now. My parents visited 2 weekends ago, and I said, as a condition of your visit, you have to bring the dog. We adopted her in 2003. We think she's 17 years old. So she's here to train for the big wiener dog race. And but you know, my parents were trying to talk me out of it. Oh, you can't take care of this dog. You know, she likes to get up at all hours of the day. You might not be home, etc. So I finally talked her into it. And the next picture is after her training for the wiener dog race. She got some broccoli that she got at the farmer's market. But what I want to tell you about is what she did. She's been here Tuesday. I guess I've been July 15th. So she wakes up at 4:30 a.m. to go out. It's still dark out, and so I let her out. And you know, she's a very old dog. She doesn't really walk. She waddles back and forth. I didn't really think she could get very far. So I irresponsibly let her out, shut the door, and then I sat back down. I woke up. It was 7:30 a.m. and I noticed the dog was missing. See the next slide. So I imagine this is her, something what she would look like when she was running around outside. But so I'm freaking out. I'm hysterical. I can't find her. I'm thinking, well, she couldn't have gotten that far because she can barely walk. But I'm hysterical. Oh my God, everything my parents said was right. I'm completely irresponsible. This poor dog's out in the middle of nowhere. I live on Hempstead Avenue, so I'm riding my bike up and down the railroad tracks trying to look for my flattened out dog. And I'm going up and down the roads, going through the alleys, seeing if she's hiding anywhere. I call the non-emergency police, report she's missing. She's wearing no collar. And then, I kind of try to contain how hysterical I was. I got some reports that some students saw her near the tennis courts on campus. The security, MUM security, saw her at the power station. And when I finally got a call back from the non-emergency police, she was picked up by the men's dome. So the punchline is she's been in Fairfield for 3 days and was already trying to be a sit-hop. That's all. Unless she's in the dome, of course.
Right. That was great. It is my time to do an evaluation of the evaluators in a very, very short time. John, loved your sense of self when you're here. You have such a presence. It goes along with your booming voice and how you describe things. I like, for example, when you're picking out with Rick, as an example, his languaging, his eye contact. You're able to pick out some very concrete specifics. You missed when you were talking about some of the recommendations to have a positive and negative, and sometimes we like to have sandwiching, the cookie, positive, negative, positives. Apart from that, really nice. Rick, I actually want to start with Monty for a second. What Monty did was really something I'd like to see the other evaluators do more often. He does a really nice personal touch throughout, even at reading the objectives. For example, Toastmasters. Aren't we all Toastmasters here? I would have liked a little bit more of that from you, Rick. Your reading is so phenomenal. You could read the dictionary and I'd be impressed. The way that you read is just powerful. When you're evaluating Gene, you pick out details from the speech. Dark hallways, comment on her ability to move between groups and individuals in terms of show her gestures, not just tell her gestures, but show her gestures. The only thing I'd like to see more from you would be more of that personal touch, because you have it. It's right there. Let it out. Same with you, Will. Your booming voice, just your power is so present. You're able to pull out really nice details. Key question of the evaluation, for example. And so instead of having us focus on the whole laundry list, we're simply going down, here's the key thing that you guys really need to know about, which was really great. Monty, again, I really liked your personal touch throughout. You're going to make it short and sweet and get back to things. Flow, body, conclusion. A couple very small things to look at. When you got lost for a second, you say audibly, see here. Like you were stumbling for a moment. Just do the same thing we always suggest. Pause. Just collect yourself. Take a moment, even if you're going fast. And then come back to what you're doing. Apart from that, really powerful. So let's bring back up Jyotiraj.
Okay, now this is the time for award. Let's see who gets the award here and who is. Okay.
is Louis Stenbaum.
Okay, yeah.
And the best evaluator
It's like the
is
fake bubbly, you know?
The best speaker is who's the speaker? Gene.
Now I'd like to call upon the stage our president, Louis Stenbaum.
Okay, I know we're running late, but we do have some necessary club business. First, I'd like to call up our Vice President of Membership, Gene.
Just while we're on the prison wavelength, we got a thank you notes. A number of you contributed to Conscious Communicators so that they were actually able to finish as President's Distinguished. And you know who you are. I let them know at their annual banquet that this club and Cambridge Techmasters had contributed, so they got a thank you note through the layers of bureaucracy there. Dear Fairfield friends, at our annual TM banquet this past weekend, it was brought to our attention exactly how much you guys have financially contributed to our club. Before this, we had known that other Area 92 clubs had helped us, but we didn't have exact names of clubs to go with it. But now that we know, and then there's this big thank you right there in the middle of the page, it is difficult for a prison club to make ends meet, scant wages that we make in here, and it means the world to us that you would support us in any endeavor, much less a financial one, ! No doubt this came directly from the heart, parentheses, and from minds that know exactly how beneficial the Toastmasters program can be, and if there is ever anything we can do to help you, please let us know. Until then, be safe, healthy, and happy. From your felonious friends at Conscious Communicators Toastmasters Club at
So our next piece of club business is